Hey all, welcome back to my channel. Hi everybody. In this video, we are going to clearly see the project workflow of every data science, machine learning and AI based projects. Most of the IT training centers or colleges are teaching the students to do projects and what is project and how every project need to be done at the end of the era. But that need to be taught at the initial stage. So students will clearly understand for what goal they are working harder each and every day. So in this video, we are going to clearly see about the project workflow. Without any delay, let's get into the video. The first step is problem statement. Understanding the problem statement based on domain knowledge. The major reason why I'm specifically saying based on domain knowledge is because you might work in various domains after you became as data scientists, AI engineers or ML engineers. Sometimes you might work in finance based projects. Sometimes you might work in healthcare based projects and sometimes banking based projects and sometimes grocery sales based projects. So based on each and every domain, you should find a typical solution for each and every problem statement. So if you need to do the next step, what you should know is you should understand the problem statement very clearly based on the domain knowledge. Even after doing so many researches, you can't clearly understand the problem statement. There is nothing wrong in getting back to the client and asking about the requirements clearly, and you can even discuss with the senior technical person in your team without hesitation. So most of the problems and the failures in this kind of projects are happening because you are not clearly understanding the problem statement clearly based on the domain knowledge. The next step is searching for data sources. So based on the type of business your client is running, the data might be stored at any place. If they are running a small business, they might store the business data to their local system. It might be into their Excel files, it might be into their spreadsheets. If they are running intermediate level business, their business data might be into their cloud storage, a basic cloud storage, or most of the time their business data would be into their website. And if your client is running a grown level business, their business are almost successful, that in that case they might store their data into their applications that was built for their specific business. So as a data scientist or as a data engineer, you should identify what might be the source where their business data got stored, where all the data from their business got stored. So finding an insight from that data could become more easier if you first identify the resources where the data might get stored. So the second step is very important. So there are chances for the projects that you are going to do, you might not have enough data. So at that case, what you have to do is you should take a step called web scraping, using which you will be collecting data from directly from internet. But most of the time that you collect from internet will be very messy and you need to do certain cleaning process for that. So the second step is finding the resources and finding the source where your data might be there. The third step is only data collection. So wherever you go and whatever websites you see, the second step would be itself a data collection. But after getting into the industry only, you will realize the second step is finding a resource, finding a source where our data is available, and data collection is the third step. So based on where your data got stored, where your client's business data got stored, if you are doing automation based projects, where that data might be stored, okay, based on identifying. After you did the identification process, the second step is done now, right? The third step is collecting those data. So for collecting the data, you have to do so many strategies. So this kind of work of collecting data from various resources and identifying the data sources and handling over all the data they collected from client and handling over that to technical team. This kind of work will be done by a role called data engineers in most of the MNC companies. But if you are getting into a startup as an ML engineer or as a data scientist or as an AI engineer, you should have the skill of collecting a data from various resources and understanding where the clients might store the data. And to be specific, you will not often get an opportunity to call the client. You will be having only specific amount of time. To be honest, a very less amount of time you will get to connect to the client because they are the busiest business stakeholders. So they might invest in crores. So they will be spending only 15 to 20 minutes for talking to you through a meeting. So within that time span, you should ask them the clear requirements and you could ask them the questions like where your data sources might be stored, and every questions need to be collected at that meeting itself. So the third most important step is data collection. Now let's look into the fourth most important step. After collecting a data, what might be the step we are going to do? What? Just guess. After collecting the data, what it might be? Data cleaning. This is where most of the data scientists, AI engineers, ML engineers, data analysts spend 70% of their time. So, as a beginner and as a student, you might have data sets that are almost clean. You might have some inconsistencies and some null values where table might have some missing values. But after getting into industry, you will get crores and crores of rows with your data set that you're going to get, right? So for that, what you have to do is you should invest 70% of your time in clearly cleaning the data after having a strong domain knowledge. Why I'm here, although I'm specifically mentioning that you should have a strong domain knowledge is because you will understand if that data is in need or if the data is not required only if you understand what is a problem, right? So for solving a problem, I should understand how important is this column to find an insight. If I have 10 columns, in that one column is something that I need to predict. For example, in the previous example, we have seen like house price data set based on the area, based on where the house is located, and based on the number of rooms, we could find the price of house, right? So in these, the three columns are called as features. And finally, the one column is called as target. So you should clearly understand how each and every column is contributing towards the target column and predicting. So only then you could keep the required columns and you could remove the unwanted columns. It's not just about data cleaning. Apart from that, you will have so many null values. When it comes to machine learning, right? Only if you give the machine learning models. If you are new to data science, you might not understand the term machine learning. It is a step-by-step process that we use for different types of data to find an insight or to automate a task. If you want your machine learning model to understand the data that you are going to provide should be very clean. It should not have any null values. It should not have a particular column with different types of cell values. If you have a particular column which has both numbers and alphabets, it can't understand it. It can't make decisions out of it. It can't make predictions. It can't automate a task. So for that purpose, you should spend most of your time in cleaning the data. The next step is EDA, exploratory data analysis and feature engineering. As similar to data cleaning, this is also the most important step. Here, you are going to understand how your data is contributing to target column and how the data actually works, especially if you have data which have numerical values, numbers. So to understand them, you will be plotting a graph. You will be plotting something that could be easy to understand visually. So if you are plotting a graph to understand how these numerical values make sense, it will be easy to understand how it is going to contribute towards the target column, right? So just by converting a table like this is your table. If this is your table like this, you are converting this to a chart like this to understand how it makes sense. Based on that, I can make decisions and I can use this as a proof to show my client why I made this decision, why I gave you this insight, why I suggested you to automate this particular process. For that process, you are doing exploratory data analysis. This process is specifically done for understanding the data as a data scientist or as an ML engineer. And I mentioned feature engineering as well, right? As I already mentioned in the process of data cleaning, based on the importance of each and every columns, we will keep or remove the necessary and unwanted columns, right? So specifically in feature engineering, your work is to keep the important columns and remove the unwanted columns. When it comes to classification based problems, when you have a target which have 3 or 4 categories, right? If you have 4 categories under target column, like you want to find out which flower it is based on the sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width. So you have 4 categories. It is iris setosa, iris virginica. Likewise, you have 4 categories. For finding out which category this flower belongs to, you should create a ML model. And finally, the target columns, in that particular target column, you might have seen that column name as type of flower. But that particular single column can be converted into 4 different columns. If it is iris setosa, you can mark it as 1. If it is not, you can mark it as 0. If it is iris virginica, you can mark it as 1. If it is not, you can mark it as 0. That process is called as encoding, converting that categorical values into numerical values. So you make machine learning algorithms understand the data better. So these steps will be done under the process of feature engineering. Next, we are moving to the important step of choosing right ML model. Even experts, ML experts, AI engineer experts, data scientist experts are struggling at this part. Based on understanding how your data works, based on how you cleaned the data, based on how you understood the data, and based on how you did those feature engineering steps, which columns are important and which columns are important in predicting the target column, you should decide which model is suitable for my particular data set with a strong domain knowledge. Okay, so in that case, you should have a strong domain knowledge and the problem understanding and what might be the solution you have in head, right? Based on that, you should choose the right machine learning model. At this stage, you will not decide a right ML model based on what you have in head. Apart from that, you should use similar ML models that works best for this data set to tell your technical team, to tell the TL, to inform the technical TL or to inform your senior data scientists or ML engineers. You should have a proof of why I choose this machine learning model. So for that purpose, what you have to do is you should definitely be using 4 to 5 machine learning models, and based on what you see as accuracy, you decide which ML model is performing well for this data set. After you make the decision, you will show the proof to your TL or to your senior employee that why I choose this model for this particular data set. So for that, the step of choosing right ML algorithms works. And final step is deployment. This is the step where you are providing a solution that is industry ready. Your clients can use the solution finally after you deploy this model to internet or you give them as application. So for that purpose, as we are learning, we'll not be using any expensive things. You are not going to use anything where you need to pay. But after getting into the company, what they will do is they will specifically paying for something like cloud. If they are collecting business data on daily basis, they'll definitely be paying for cloud. So on that case, you'll be using multiple cloud sources. You'll be connecting those many things and finally providing them as an application or as a website using which they can do predictions or which can help their customers. You might develop a chatbot, you might develop a large language model, you might develop a website which is used for prediction, which will help the clients, right? You can do anything, but you will be finally providing them a product as a website or as an application which is in a useful format. And you have one more step after deployment. So it is not a final step, this is a final step. What it might be, after deploying the model, you handle over the product. For that you need a proof, right? That is why we have documentation and maintenance. After you deployed a model and you delivered that to a client, okay, your model finally got delivered to a client. After that, the next step that you should follow is documentation. You are providing them with the proof, what are all the data they provided, what are all the data you collected, and how you kept the data confidential, because this is specifically a business based data. So here your work is to keep the data confidential without sharing it with anyone. Their competitors might get the data if you didn't keep it confidential. So the security of the data that they provide is also very important. So with all the proof and finally with what solution you provided, you are going to handle over them with the solution along with the document, proper document. And next to documentation, what you are going to do is maintaining the model. This step, deployment, after this deployment, no, your work is not done yet. What you have to do is you have to maintain the model to improve the performance in future and to figure out if that model is working well for this client. So you can use the same model and similar solutions to other clients who have a similar problem. So that decision will be made using the step of maintenance. I hope this project workflow of AI, ML and data science projects helped you. If you have any doubts, without any hesitation, you can ask in comments. And I swear that every comments will get proper answers. Bye for now.